Assalamu alaikum students. Today we're going to visualize functions, and then it will help us to understand inverse of a function. I'll be giving you 4-step method by which you can find inverse of a function. So first of all, we need to understand what do we mean by a function. For example, if you have a function that is f of x is, let's take a straightforward function, 2x plus 3. There are two elements involved in it. Fx is equal to 2x plus 3 means if you put x, if you give x different values, you will get different values for the right hand side. So the x values that we assign to this function will be my input, and the values that I get on the right hand side by putting in the value of x is my output. For example, if I put x is equal to 1 in this equation, my input is 1. So what is my output? Output will be, I'll put in the value of x and I'll get a 5. All right. Similarly, if I put x is equal to 2, or if my input is 2, my output will be 7. All right. Likewise, if I put f of x is equal to 3, what do I get as an output? 9. Now I want you to visualize your input and output, your function. I have explained it that the function is when you put in the value of x, you get an output. All right. So I have colored input in magenta color. Okay. So if my input is 1, for example, when I put x is equal to 1 in the equation, what is my output? Output is 5. So I'll write it here. For 1, the value of my output is 5. This is input and this is the output. For x is equal to 2, what is my output? The output is 7. Right? And for x is equal to 3, my output is 9. In other words, this is the domain and this is the range of values which I get by putting in the value of x in the function. Right? Now we need to understand what do we mean by inverse of a function. Please keep this in mind, that inverse is reverse of it. All right. If you have value 5 as an output or as the range, how can you move back to your x value? We need to have a function that is called inverse of a function, reverse of the function or anti-function. If we have the value 7 as inverse, how can we get back to 2? If we have value 9 as the range or as the output, how can we move back to 3? This can only be done if we know the inverse of that function. We know the function which is 2x plus 3, but we don't know the inverse of a function. So now we'll study how can we find the inverse of a function. All right, now that we have understood that f of x is equal to y and how x is equal to f inverse y, we will solve a question and we'll find the inverse of a function of x. Let's take the same question. F of x is 2x plus 3 and we have to find f dash of x. All right, there are 4 steps involved in it. Step number 1, put f of x is equal to y. In this question, you have to equate f of x to y. So can I write it as y is equal to 2x plus 3? And we know one important thing, that if I shift this y to this side, it becomes f inverse of y is equal to x. Keep this in mind. This is a very important information. From the visual, you can see this is f inverse y and it moves back to x, or it is equal to x if you find the way back. All right. Now, step 1 is done. We have equated y to f of x. So I have written, instead of f of x, I have written y is equal to 2x plus 3. Step 1 done. Now step 2 is solve for x. Solve for x means put x on one side and put the rest of the values to the other side. Make x the subject. So what I'll do, I'll start shifting the elements to the other side, and I'm left with y minus 3 over 2. Step 2 is done. Step 2 was solve for x. Okay, we are done with step 1 and step 2. Now step 3, and remember we are finding the inverse of a function. First 2 steps are done. Step number 3, instead of this x, can I put f inverse y? Because we know that if f of x is equal to y, f inverse y is equal to x. We have to keep this in mind. So instead of x, I'll replace it with f inverse y. So I'll rewrite it, f inverse y is equal to y minus 3 over 2. We are almost there. Okay. Step number 4 is replace y with x. You have to put x instead of y, and you have figured out the inverse function of x. This is it. Please keep this in mind. Inverse of a function is the reverse of f of x, and f of x, if f of x is equal to y, then x is equal to f inverse y. We will be doing a lot of practice, and we'll be plotting a graph of linear equations in the next lecture. So all the best. I hope you have understood it. Allah Hafiz.